I have so much to be thankful for. Like, you have a body that is fit enough to do this. A lot of people don't have that luxury. You have the luxury of being able to financially manage this. You have the luxury of having friends to do it with. You have family to support you, a family that is taking care of your kids. There's so much to be grateful for. Why are you feeling unhappy that you didn't beat this time? Basically, it was exercise. Of course, it was almost 90 minutes of exercise, 90 to 120 minutes of exercise a day. Obviously, sleeping well. And then basically food and food restrictions was, I like to break it down to one simple strategy of saying no to SAMM. And SAMM, I treat it like a bad boyfriend. You have to break up with SAMM. And, he's a boyfriend that keeps coming back into your life, but you have to keep saying no to him.
I am Venki, a working professional in IT as well as an amateur masters athlete and a coach for endurance sports. You are listening to the Working Athlete podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, I have a small request from you. Please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. You can also let me know what you like and what you would like to listen to more of by commenting in the comment section on YouTube. I promise to do my best to improve with each episode and bring you the best content that helps you and me get better each day. In this episode, we talk to Nirupa Shankar, Joint Director of the Brigade Group, a mother of two, and an Ironman finisher. She shares about her experience of balancing life as a corporate leader, an involved mom, and as a triathlete. She also shares her experience of shedding off nearly 25 kilos, not once, but twice after childbirth, and getting back to fitness. She was very candid about her athletic abilities, and it comes across as a refreshing and pragmatic approach to fitness. She shares practical tips based on her experience, and I found quite a few of them very interesting for myself, including the one about breaking up with SAMM. Who or what is SAMM, you ask? Listen from her directly. This episode is brought to you by The Bike Affair. If you are in search of a one-stop destination that caters to all your cycling needs, our today's sponsor, The Bike Affair, is the perfect place to check out. I have known the founders of The Bike Affair, Krish and Gokul, personally for nearly 15 years now. In fact, my first century ride was with Krish back in 2008. They are both exceptional human beings and entrepreneurs that believe in providing exceptional service to their customers. And it shows. With over 14 years of experience, the Bike Affair has established itself as a trusted source offering honest advice and exceptional service. They are offering a special treat for the listeners of this podcast. You can enjoy a 10% discount on your first order by using the code BikeyVenki on their website. So if you are in Hyderabad, visit their store in Kondapur, or if you are anywhere else in India, shop online by using the link thebikeaffair.com. I will leave the link in the show notes. Now, enjoy the podcast. Hi, Nirupa. Welcome to the Working Athlete podcast.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Nice. So, Nirupa, what I wanted to, talk about with you is, of course, your experience, of completing Ironman recently. Of course, let me start by congratulating you for that.
Thank you.
But also, talk about your triathlon journey and also a bit about your work and how you manage, all work, home, and the sport, right? But let us start by talking about what was your relationship with sport growing up, if any.
Yeah. So I think growing up, I always loved sport. I think early on, I was dunked into a pool and I used to do summer camps in a pool. Never really picked it up very well, swimming. But I used to play basketball, I think from the age of maybe 10 to about 18 is when I played basketball. So I played for my school and both my schools, my Sophia's and Aditi. So I co-captained the team at Sophia's and captained the team at Aditi. And then I think from 18 to almost 34, I really didn't have much of, I was really not in touch with sports. I think I would go to the gym, do something here and there, maybe go for a small jog, 5 kilometer, 3 kilometers, very short distances. And I really started getting back into my sporting journey only post 34, 35.
Nice, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I know how did that happen? Like how did the thought of getting back into sport come in?
Yeah, so what happened was I think after my in my 12th grade, like I was saying, I was playing a lot of basketball. I got to a point when I was 18 and during the summer holidays, I couldn't even climb a flight of stairs because my knees were paining. And I think it was because I had something called a runner's knee, like a little bit of patella tendonitis.
Right.
And because of that, I would go to multiple physios. They would tell me, strengthen your glutes, do this, do that. And nothing really helped. So then I just started going to the gym to strengthen all the muscles around my knees. And that's all I kept it at. And as long as I could run about 4-5 kilometers pain free, I was quite happy with that. Then, of course, got married at 28 or so, had my first child at 33. And I think I gained a lot of weight during my pregnancy, about 25, 23 kilos or so. So I was really, really heavy for my frame. That was a big amount for my frame. So in order to lose that weight, I started again going back to the gym. And because of that, I started doing some running. And again, my knee pain had subsided with all the gym training. But basically, if you want to run pain free, you have to like stretch, you have to strengthen, you have to foam roll, you have to like even ice it. So the advice was, why don't you do some bit of swimming as well to sort of offset or reduce the inflammation of the running. So get into a cold pool and just swim for like 15, 20 minutes. So basically I was doing a bit of swimming and a bit of running to help me with some cardio, to help me lose all that weight. So that's how I restarted my fitness journey. And then I got really fit. I think I had touched a peak of 83 kilos.
Right.
And I not only shed the 23, 25 kilos that I gained because of pregnancy, but I shed some more. And I was actually at my peak fitness when I was about 35. I reached about 53 kilos and I was like probably
Really
at my
good.
peak
Yeah.
fitness then. So that was about 6 years ago.
Right. Right. So when you what was let us spend a little bit of time on that period
Yeah.
of losing weight.
Yeah.
What were the things that you focused on apart from weight training? What were the kind of maybe any dietary stuff that you were taking care of,
Yeah.
so that listeners can benefit from it?
I probably have to take my own advice now again to get back to my peak fitness. But right now, I'm actually thinking about that myself. I'm like, what did I do at that point in time to get to that fitness? And I'm trying to get back to a shape that is better than what I was when I was 35. And basically, it was exercise. Of course, it was almost 90 minutes of exercise, 90 to 120 minutes of exercise a day. It was obviously sleeping well. And then basically food restrictions was, I like to break it down to one simple strategy of saying no to SAMM. And SAMM, I treat it like a bad boyfriend. You have to break up with SAMM. And he's a boyfriend that keeps coming back into your life, but you have to keep saying no to him. And SAMM is sugar, alcohol, and maida. And now I want to add another M to it and say milk. So I want to make it SAMM with a double M and say sugar, alcohol, maida, and milk. If you remove these 4 things from your diet, I don't think you'll ever gain weight.
Right. So breaking up with SAMM
breaking up
actually
with SAMM.
helped you
That's
lose
what
that.
it did. That's what it took. And I think I have a work life which is very, very hectic. And I'm also in the hotel space, which has a lot of food and beverage. But every time some chef leaves, new chef comes, they want to impress you. They're constantly sending food. Any festival, they're sending you sweets. You're constantly doing food trials. I sit in long meetings, and the first thing the meeting has is like cookies for everybody to,
Right.
So I realized I had to say no to a lot of food multiple times in a day. So what would happen is I would say no, okay, no cookies in the morning, 11 o'clock, no, 12 o'clock, no. And then maybe after lunch, okay, no cookies post lunch. It could be 3, 4, 5. But at 5 o'clock, even if I said no 10 times before, but I gave in the 11th time and I said, and I ate the cookies at 5 o'clock, I would see no change.
Right.
So literally it was like, how do you eliminate all these things from your life? And growing up for me, I never had a weight issue. I was a little overweight here and there, like maybe 4, 5 kilos here and there, but nothing drastic. So food was never an issue for me. I never had to control my food because I always had a lot of activity in my life.
Right.
So I was constantly running, gymming, whatever, playing sport. I remember post school, like I would come back and eat like half a loaf of bread with like butter and, jam on it. And I just never had to control food. And the first time I started controlling my food was at 35. And I got to crazy fitness levels. And I maintained those fitness levels, I think, till I had my second child. And after my second child, again, I gained 25 kilos.
Right.
And I think I got rid of actually everything using the same principle.
Right.
But I think like progress is never linear. And then I feel like in the last few months, I've gained a bit more weight. After the Ironman, I think I took a break. And in those 2 months of pretty much going from 14 hours of activity to like 3 hours or 2 hours of activity in a week,
Right.
again, I sort of gained some weight. So it's constantly a battle that we're all dealing with.
Correct. Yeah, it's a constant battle. That is very true.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, right, in the kind of work that workspace you are in.
Yeah.
Long meetings are a thing, and then the hotel space, the hospitality business, and all that. So you are always in the in your face there are like so many kind of distractions and all that. So how do you and like you said, even if you said no 10 times or 15 times, and the 16th time you ended up indulging, giving in, so you are kind of, you feel like you are back to square one. So how did you kind of finally, was there anything that kind of helped you deal with it?
So I gamified it. I gamified it like food versus me. And I'm not saying all food, of course. I'm saying these 4 elements of sugar, alcohol, maida. Right. And I gamified it and I said, let's see who wins today. It was like Nirupa versus SAMM. So I could say no to SAMM, like I said, 10, 12 times. But if I gave in the 13th time, I still lost.
Right.
So I kind of gamified it, and I realized you don't have to do it for extended periods of time. You have to do it till you lose the weight, which could be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And then you can go back to some indulgence. Like then giving in like 10%, 20% of the time is fine. I think maintaining is a lot easier than losing weight. So when you're on the weight loss period, I think then you need to be fairly strict if you really want to see results.
Right.
But if you're in the maintenance phase, I think you can eat a bit of everything and your body is quite forgiving.
In moderation.
I think your body is quite forgiving if you're doing moderate exercise and eating or giving into indulgences 20% of the time. I think your body is pretty forgiving. But if you really want to get into weight loss mode, then I think you have to be very strict. Right. And like I said, I just gamified it and I would just say Nirupa versus SAMM and see who would win more number of times.
That is awesome.
Until I won more number of times, I didn't see any change on the scale.
Yeah. No, that is brilliant. Gamification that way really helps. So you have as I think, women have this a superpower of, being able to give birth. But that also is, like you said, twice during the whole process. Yeah. It is a very difficult process, right? And that, so you had to go through that twice, and that whole gaining weight and trying to lose weight and all that. But what are the key lessons that you learned during, these twice,
You mean from a weight loss perspective?
Correct.
I think somebody had told me, it doesn't matter how much weight you gain during pregnancy, just lose it within the first year. So I think I took that advice very seriously, and I gained a lot of weight during my pregnancy, because also I had a lot of like nausea and like I couldn't exercise. Like some women can do yoga, some women can somehow maintain some physical activity. I think because I knew I was not exercising or working towards some goal, I just moved into work mode, and I just worked very long hours during my pregnancy. So I had very little activity because I noticed that the days I worked or walked 10,000 steps a day, I actually didn't gain weight. But the weeks went by when I didn't walk 10,000 steps a day, then I would gain weight during my pregnancy. So the weight was managed when I could walk at least 10,000 steps, which I didn't do very often, quite frankly. The second learning was whatever you gain, lose it in the first year. It was much easier on my first time. The second time I was in my late 30s, I was like 37. And I found it a lot harder to lose that last 4-5 kilos.
Right.
It took a little longer than 1 year, but it's okay. I think that last 4-5 is okay.
Yeah.
It's, you somewhat start resembling yourself. So if you gain 25, you lost 20.
Right.
That last 5 is okay to lose. Anyway, 10-12 kilos you lose within a month or two of delivering. So it's just the balance 10 kilos that you need to address. And then, like I said, the food becomes very important, your activity levels. And I think as you're feeding the child, like breastfeeding the child, that you don't gain weight, you don't gain too much weight then, because you're expending energy. And then I think that's mainly it. Four main rules, I would say.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. The main thing that struck me was like trying to lose weight within the first year.
I mean, I would say you can't really focus on weight loss in the first 6 months. You have other things to worry about.
Right, the breastfeeding and all that.
I would say, so when I say first year, I would say the first 6 months, that was not my focus at all.
Right.
It was feeding the child, breastfeeding the child, making sure that, you're just getting used to everything. The child needs you 100%.
Right.
So weight loss was not a goal at all in the first 6 months. I would say in the next 6 months when, a schedule or a routine is formed, I think the next 6 months is when I think you can put in, go for a walk with your baby in a stroller, and you can manage some amount of weight loss. So, and it honestly comes down to moderate exercise, which I think most people can get.
Right.
But I think it's the food that really is a struggle for many,
True.
Yeah.
Great. So now coming to the sport aspect, right? So when and how did you get into triathlons of all things?
So I joined, like I said, I started running post the first child, maybe when I was 34. And I joined a runners club called Runners 360. Shreyas Karnad. So he was my first running coach. And of course, he was recommended to me by another friend, Jeevak Shetty. Do you know Jeevak?
I heard, I think.
So Jeevak was like, I asked him, he was running and he was doing a lot of cool things. And I asked him, like, where are you training? And he said, Shreyas, but I'm not going to introduce you. He thought I wouldn't be dedicated enough to join this club. And he's like, if you don't show up, like, I'm going to be very embarrassed. So show up. So I joined Runners 360. Shreyas was my first running coach. And the whole world of running and endurance sports opened up to me, because I think there were at least like 50 people that would meet on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes on Saturdays at Cubbon Park at 5:25.
When was
precisely? This? I think this was about 8 years ago. So when I was 34 or so.
After
7-8 years after my first child. And I think that opened up the world. When you would go and we would do short runs, and I would talk to so many people, and they would talk about triathlons, and I'm like, what is a triathlon? And people would explain it to me, and I was like, wow, that's so amazing. Like, and I just hope that at one day, like, I'll be able to do a full Ironman. Like, that was like, I can't do it now. I can't even dream of doing it now. It's not even a goal for me now. But one day I hope I do it. And after doing more endurance events, I think my first 10K I did when I was 35. My very first 10K I actually did only when I was 35. I did the Pinkathon 10K, and I think came in the top 1%. So I did it sub 55 minutes, 54 minutes, 45 seconds or something like that.
Definitely faster than me. Yeah.
That was then.
Yeah.
And then I did a half marathon. Then I did a 1K swim. I had a swimming coach. His name is Satish. Do you know Satish Mata?
Yeah.
Swim Life. So he started training me for swimming. So I did a 1K swim in Goa. Really enjoyed it. Did it in like some 25 minutes or so. And then this whole world of triathlons, you talk to people, right? Everybody's like, oh, you just have to start cycling and you can do a triathlon. And I remember at that stage thinking, one day I want to do one. Maybe not anytime soon, because I'd never cycled really in my life. Never cycled in my life. Like even as a child, I think I had a tricycle, but never a two-wheel bike. It was always 3 wheels. And so then I was like, maybe when I'm 40, like I'd like to gift myself the fitness to do a full Ironman. When I'm 40, and this was when I was 34, 35,
right.
So like 5 years ahead, I was like, okay, there's no way I can do it now. Maybe when I'm 40, I'll gift myself this goal of doing an Ironman, which for me seemed impossible at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had that goal, but what are the steps that you took to and when did you finally start taking that steps, getting the cycle and start cycling and all that?
So, like I said, 35, I'd done my first 10K. I think that day that year, I also did a Kaveri Trail half marathon. Then I did that Goa 1 kilometer swim. So I think at that point in time, I realized I just need to get a bike. And I'd never cycled before. So I went to Bums on the Saddle, picked up like a specialized basic bike. So I said, give me whatever you have, sub 1 lakh, because I didn't want to spend too much at that point in time, found something. And I literally signed up for Thonnur triathlon, the sprint distance. So the sprint is shortest form. Correct. So it was only 750 meter swim, 20 kilometer bike and a 5K run. And swimming also, while I had jumped into a pool before, I'd never really could not do more than 1 breath at a time. Like I'd be huffing and puffing. Right. So I think I had about 5 months, to train for the Thonnur. It was in September that year, 2018 or so. 2017 or 2018, I think 2017.
Right.
And so 5 months I trained from zero, running was somewhat okay. So the 5K, I knew I would be able to do it. The swim, I trained literally from doing 1 breath to 750 meter or 1 kilometer swim. And I think within 3 months, I was able to do it. But I was doing it in a pool, not in open water. Yeah. And then the bike, I think I did 5 practice rides on a bike.
Yeah.
I did 100 kilometers and I went for the race. So the bike was really the scary part for me. Getting on, getting off on a road bike with traffic. I was really scared of that. So I did the Thonnur, which was a sprint distance. And in my category, the good thing is there are hardly any women. There were 3 women. And I lost my way because there were trees everywhere. There was not good, enough signage. I went past the turning point, and so I was cycling. I cycled 5 kilometers extra. So instead of doing 20, I had to cycle 30 because 5 out and 5 back.
Yeah.
And because there were only 3 people, I came third. Right. So I kept telling myself, listen, you just have to complete it. You just have to complete it. And the run was a bit tiring because I had not trained for 2 hours of cardio before that.
Yeah.
So I felt like a total champion of finishing that Thonnur race. And it was good. And that's how it started. But by then, like I said, I was 35, 36. I was also somewhat fit, but I didn't do any long distance stuff. And then at 37, I had my second child.
Right.
And then it took about 38. Probably that was COVID year, 2020.
Right.
So I restarted cycling only when I was in 2020. So before that, I'd literally done 130 kilometers of biking in my life. So during COVID, all the roads were shut.
Right.
So a bunch of friends and we created a group called the Weekend Warriors.
Right.
And every Sunday we would just go cycle. So first 20K, 30, 40, 50. And then we even I hit my first 100K, I think in 2021. Like literally I'd done only 100K in my life. And that was in 2021. So slowly, it was pretty good. And then I said, okay, now that the cycling is taken care of and doing 40 kilometers, not a problem for me. I signed up for Croatia Olympic distance triathlon. So the Croatia Olympic was double the distance of the sprint triathlon.
Correct.
So from 750 meters swim, you go up to 1.5K swim. Then
40K bike.
40K bike and a 10K run. So I signed up for Croatia. Actually, I'd signed up for something else, but then I got COVID. So in the middle, I was really good with my bike and I was cycling fairly well. And then I got COVID and I had that Delta virus one, which couldn't walk for more than 5 minutes. It took me a good 2.5 months to actually recover from tiredness. Otherwise, I could only walk. So 1 month of just COVID where no exercise was there. But I used that time pretty wisely. I was bedridden almost, but I used it to fix. I had diastasis recti because of my pregnancy. So just did a lot of core exercises to bring my stomach muscles in together. And then I just started taking baby steps and I worked towards the Croatia Ironman in 2021.
Right.
And I was 38 at that point in time. So I had told myself 38 Olympic, 39 half, and 40 full.
Wow.
So I was working towards that.
Right.
So that's how it went. And each time I had only 5 months to train. I would somehow, if I was given the luxury of time, I never took it seriously. I would always prioritize something else over Ironman training. So work was super busy and I would never give it the focus and the time and the energy it required, So I think each event, I've actually given myself only 4 to 5 months to train for each event.
Right.
And just scale up from there.
Right. So you did a sprint try.
Sprint was in
2017.
Yeah.
And then you got
The next one was only 2021.
2021.
After my second child.
The Olympic distance.
Yeah.
And then you, so 2021 and then
22, I did the Dubai half Ironman. So that was 6 months later.
Right.
My body took 1 month, 1.5 months just to recover from the Olympic distance. And, there my swim was really bad. It was open water, slightly choppy waters. I had a massive panic attack in the middle of the ocean. I was swimming. And there I had self-seeded myself. And I knew I was one of the slowest. So I put myself at the back, thinking I don't want to be, punched and kicked in the face. I said, let me go aram se. I'll go in the last segment. So halfway through I'm going and suddenly I turn back and look and there's nobody there.
Right.
I was the last person in the water. And I was like, what the hell? This is so scary. And everybody else was far ahead of me. And I was ready to call it. Even the boat that was there with the last number of swimmers was on the way out. But I knew my daughter was waiting there. My older daughter was waiting at the end of the swim course. I was like, for her sake, let me just do something and just get the hell out of this water. So somehow managed to do it within the cutoff time. And so then the bike was also extremely hard. Everybody says flat. But, the wind is so much. There's wind factor is there. Basic baby hills are there.
Right.
So I found the bike extremely hard. I was racing against time for each of the sectors.
Yeah.
And literally it was a 4-hour cutoff for the Olympic distance. And then I literally made it within 15-20 minutes of the cutoff. But I was happy. But actually I was not happy then. I thought I'll be one superhero champ.
Right.
And finish in 3 hours, 15 minutes or 3.5 hours. And I couldn't because I was not used to that terrain. I was not used to the open water. And I should have been happy with the time I did, but I was so unhappy because I had set some expectations unreasonably high. That I was very unhappy after that event. So I decided after that my next big learning was have zero expectations from an event. Just go, have fun, enjoy yourself. Doesn't matter the time. Just cross the finish line, because it's not like I'm trying to hit podium or
Right.
like, even if I struggle for the next 20 years, I'm not going to beat anybody there. It's not going to happen. You know, I've started it's too little, too late,
Right.
too late in life rather.
Yeah, we're doing it for staying fit,
Yeah.
for fun.
Yeah.
And it is not our bread and butter.
Yeah,
So
it's
work and
That's
all
what I
that.
was
Right?
like. I was like, what? I had a holiday planned after Croatia, so that's my other funda in life. Like, go do Ironmans and plan a holiday after that. Like, anyway, you need to relax, so you've earned yourself a good holiday. So
Correct.
go do Ironmans in different countries. Go see that country after you finish it. You know, you'll be so relaxed and you'll feel in a good mood. But after Croatia, I was so unhappy with my performance. I had a crappy holiday, even though the place was so beautiful and family was there, my parents, my in-laws, my kids, my sister. I could have just had such a good time.
Right.
So next time after I did Dubai, I was like, I don't care what my timing is. If I cross that finish line, I'm celebrating.
Right. No, that's an important lesson for
Yeah.
every one of us to remember, right?
Yeah, and I was like, I have so much to be thankful for. Like, you have a body that is fit enough to do this. A lot of people don't have that luxury. You know, you have the luxury of being able to financially manage this. You have the luxury of having friends to do it with. You have family to support you, a family that is taking care of your kids. There's so much to be grateful for. Why are you feeling unhappy that you didn't beat this time? Like,
Right.
big deal.
Yeah, that's a great lesson to
Yeah.
take forward.
Yeah.
So, how was your Dubai? 70.3, right?
70.3.
Yeah.
So again, I had like 3 months or 4 months to train for it, because Croatia was in October 2021. Dubai was in March, early March. And I took month and a half for my body to just recover. Like, even if I told myself, go run, my body was not running. So I was just like, forget it, just rest it out and then restart. Again, I think I had a second bout of very mild COVID in January. So, and the event was in March, first week of March. So it was again touch and go for me. But I think Dubai, the swim was really good. I think initially, it's a tendency. I think I started to get a panic attack with the wetsuit was tightening around my neck, and a lot of big European guys, trying to swim on top of you. And initially, the swim was not so pleasant.
Right.
But I was just like, you know what? One stroke at a time, one stroke at a time. Just put one hand in front of the other. And I finished the swim, and I was so relieved I finished the swim, because it was really far out and it was a almost 2K swim. And I had not done that in an open water ever. So I think when the swim got done, I think I almost cried with like relief. Then I went, changed into my cycling gear, started the cycle. Again, Dubai is supposed to be a super flat and fast course. But on the way, it was 45 kilometers out, 45 kilometers in. The 45 kilometers out was so, like, headwinds were so strong that I was going extremely slow. And again, a lot of people overtaking me. And I had, again, a road bike. I had not yet gotten onto aero bars or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think I was very resistant to the wind. Huge was like really struggling, and somehow, again, just one pedal in front of the other. I was just pushing myself, talking to all the participants who were as slow as me. And then finally, when we did the turn at 45 kilometers, the tailwinds were with you.
Right.
So luckily, it was like
Then
much
flying.
faster, flying. I mean, relatively flying.
Yeah.
But I started getting cramps. Like, I started feeling the cramps, and I was like, God, just get me to the finish line of the cycling. And I was one of the last few, but Dubai and the traffic started coming into the cycling lanes. So towards the last few kilometers, I think the 4-5 kilometers, I actually had to navigate a bit through traffic, which was super scary for me, because I was not very confident. I just started the cleats.
Right.
I just worn cleats for the first time, like not first time, but for Dubai, for an event. And I was super nervous about that. So anyway, somehow I was like, just hand over your bike. So did that. And then the run for me started at like 12 in the afternoon by the time I got to it. And I was again pushed pretty back in Dubai, because it starts at 7. By the time I got pushed towards the end in the line, I started at 7:45, 7:50. So one of the last few to start, one of the last few then to finish also.
Right.
So as I was starting my run, people had finished the race, taking the medals, going away. And I was like, oh God, I have to start now. So that is hard, you know, like it's, it is hard to be one of the last few also, because you're like, everybody's done. Like, how do you stay motivated? Like, it's easy to be motivated when there are many people along with you.
Correct.
But luckily, I think the run was a couple of loops, 2 loops. I can't remember, like maybe 2 loops, I want to say. So at least like there were some people on the second loop, but the last loop got a little lonely.
Right.
And then somehow got myself around on the finish line, did it in about 7 hours, 40 minutes. And yeah, I would have loved to do it faster, but I didn't. But taking from my previous experience, I was really happy. And I think just the attitude shift, I was just so happy, you know. I was really happy that I had finished it, despite all obstacles that come your way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is something that, all of us need to learn, right? That, taking the lessons from one event to the other. And,
And some people didn't finish, like I would rather take my time and finish than not finish.
Right.
So I was just like, my attitude was different from Croatia, and I had the best time. I was so grateful actually for the opportunity to be able to do whatever we did.
Right. So now coming to the full thing, right? A full Ironman.
Yeah.
It's 3.9 kilometers swim, 180 kilometer bike, and 42 kilometers full marathon at the end of it. So, for me, it sounds really scary. Although I've known friends, many friends doing like multiple times, and it's never really something that we need to take it lightly for me, right? So what was the training for that, and how did it go?
So again, life I think throws you a lot of curveballs, and I feel like that is why we need to be grateful every step of the way. So I finished Dubai in March 2022. Like I said, I was 39. And I told myself 40 full Ironman. So I had till October, which is when my birthday is. And so I had signed up for Copenhagen full Ironman in August of 2022, just before my 40th birthday. But I think I finished in March, and in April, I'd gone for a nice holiday here, there, Spain, came back. And my mom called me and she's like, listen, your dad's not well. So I had a personal exigency. So my dad was, very seriously not well. And everything sort of came to a standstill for me.
Right.
Like, just had to focus on doing what I could for my father. So I think it took him almost like 8-9 months of a lot of treatments, surgeries, this, that, and the other, where my fitness and my training came to an absolute standstill.
Right.
Literally, it was hospital kids sleep work, something in that order for like a good 9 months. So almost from April till November, I didn't train at all.
Right.
Zero training. And April to November, almost 9 months, I gained 1 kilo every month.
Right.
Because like I was training for a half Ironman. Or, I mean, maybe it was 10-12 hours a week at that point in time, but at least 90 minutes a day was what I was doing. It came to zero.
Right.
And I think like with the stress, you're eating junk food, you're not sleeping very well, your body's not rested. I gained 9 kilos. And come November, so I had to defer Copenhagen 2022. I pushed it to 2023.
Right.
And then I think my dad was a lot better. He was fine by about November or so.
Right.
So I said, okay, he's better now. I can refocus, refocus energies on myself. And so then I told my coach, Arjun Kundikopa, he's been training me for Dubai and what do you call it? Copenhagen. And he said, okay, fine, let's get on a plan. I said, listen, I still couldn't do 100% focus. So I said, let me just run. Like running for me has always been a bit of a de-stressor.
Right.
So I just said, let me just do one full marathon. I've never done more than 21 kilometers in my life. Right. So let me do one at a time. So I said, let me just do, I had said Mumbai Marathon, but because I started training in November and my body was so like rusty, I was not ready for Mumbai.
Mumbai is usually in Jan, right?
Jan.
Yeah.
So November, December, 2.5
Too
months
early,
from
yeah.
21 to was difficult. So I said, I'll do Delhi. So I trained for Delhi. Again, like it was not ideal situation. My work was a lot. Still had hospital visits, still had a lot of things. But I just had about 8 to 12 weeks to train. And I literally did my long runs. My long runs was one thing I did. So it was like a 10K, then 15K, then 18K, then 21K, then 25, then 27, and a 30. So 7 weeks of long runs. Some I missed because I was traveling or I couldn't go because of some other work commitment. I had a lot of travel and my schedule does have a lot of travel.
Right.
So the balance weeks I missed due to travel. So literally 7 to 8 weeks is what I trained for the Delhi full. And the week before I trained, I suddenly I had twisted my ankle. I had gone out for a friend's party and I twisted my ankle because I didn't see a step. So I hadn't, today is Sunday and the race was next Sunday. I twisted my ankle on Sunday morning. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was resting it out. Thursday was starting to feel better, but I got a back spasm. Like, when your neck, you can't turn it.
Right.
Like,
you wake up
one
with
morning
a
with
stiff
a
neck
stiff
or something.
neck.
Yeah.
You can't turn. And Thursday, Friday, I thought it'll go. But and I went for a couple of releases. I thought it'll go. It didn't go. Saturday, I'm like, shit, what do I do? The flight is today. And so anyway, I said, chalo, take the flight.
Let's do it,
We'll see what to do. Reached Delhi and the flight landed with a bang, like, little rocky, and my whole back, like, was in so much of pain. Like I was literally shedding tears. It wasn't that painful. Then I reached the hotel and I called a couple of doctors. I said, what do I do? Give me some muscle relaxants. So popped a few pills, went to bed by 9 o'clock in the night, woke up at 2:30 in the morning, popped some more Dolo 650s. Was supposed to reach the venue at 3:30 or 3:15. I was like, who's going to reach the venue so early? The race is only at 4:15.
Yeah.
So I took a cab at 3:30. I was staying close by, but all the roads were closed off because Delhi Marathon is in the heart of, I think, in the heart of the city.
Right.
Then I had to run 2 kilometers to reach the start line. I reached the start line at 4:13.
Right.
And the flag off was at
4:15.
4:15. And then I start running. And I was like, okay, whatever. Now just enjoy the event.
Yeah.
The energy, the coolness of the 4:15 in the morning, being with like, I don't know how many people were there. Maybe 2,000?
Yeah. Should be like that.
It was fun. I just ran. And I remember when I was doing my trial runs, 25 was the max I was running. When I did 27, I walked the last 2 kilometers. When I did 30, I walked the last 7 kilometers. Last 5 kilometers. And so I had literally run 25 kilometers before, but somehow that day I managed to run throughout. I stopped at every aid station. So I stopped there was one every kilometer,
Okay.
I think,
Okay.
every kilometer.
Okay.
So on the either side, so you could stop on either side.
Right.
I stopped 20 times, 2 bathroom breaks, because I was just like, I'm enjoying the moment. As long as, before I had the time of, okay, let me finish it sub 5 hours and all. But with my neck pain, this pain, that pain, I said, boss, just complete it.
That's completed,
And be happy if you just complete it.
Yeah.
But, the energy, the vibe, it was a very well-planned event. I finished it in about 4 hours, 45 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was, again, really happy.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. I just did the running first. Started cycling only, I finished March, April. My body was again like not responding, it needed recovery time. And then March, April, then May, I started cycling. May, June, July is when I really cycled. Again, I'd never cycled more than 100K before that.
Right.
So May, June, July, 12 weeks. Yeah. I did like first 60K, 80K, 100, 115, 125, 135, 150, 165, 180, 165, 150. 12 weeks.
Right.
That's all I did.
Yeah.
So in all my life, in 40 years of my life, I'd cycled 100 kilometers. And in 3 months, I did like 1,000 kilometers. So literally cycled like 1,400, 1,500 kilometers in those 3 months.
Right.
And I went. And swimming, That was the swimming was the. I was okay. I was doing about 2.73K by myself. But I was doing with a lot of breaks. In the last 1 month, I think in the month of July, I went to a 50-meter pool. I was swimming in a 20-meter pool. So I went to a 50-meter pool and I did 4Ks 4 times. Like a 4K 4 times. So first it was 1000K into 4, then it was 2K into 2, then it was 3K plus 1K, and then it was 4K.
Right.
So that's that. So it was literally 5-6 months of hardcore training.
Right. And how did the event itself go?
Event was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I was like, just cross the finish line. So my coach, I was honestly training the bare minimum I could. Work was also hectic. I could not drop the ball on work. In those 5 months of training, I was traveling at least for 5 weeks. So like there were weeks where I just didn't do what I was supposed to do as per plan. And my coach was like, listen, I know you're just trying to cross the finish line, but at the way you're going, you're not going to even cross the finish line. You're not going to do it. Right. And I got so depressed, I didn't train for another week. Then finally I was like, okay, pick yourself up and get down to it.
Right.
And finally, I think the swim was a really long loop. I remember being very tired during the whole thing. And but luckily there was a small place in the swim where you could actually stand up, and many people were standing up because these guys are all 6 feet tall, so their hands were not letting them swim. So I was getting a lot of water in my goggles, so I could actually manage to stand up and put my goggles right. But I think, with the Ironman, I realized it's all mental. I was like, physically, I'm not ready for it.
Right.
Physically, I was not ready for it. My body was not ready for it.
Yeah.
Because I'd done like 3-4 months of training. People train for it for like 1.5 years, 2 years.
Right.
I was going there like a heroine with like 3-4 months of training. And physically I was not ready, but I said, okay, it's mental. One step at a time, one stroke at a time. Enjoy the process. So the whole time I was just like, one stroke, next stroke. Just focusing on just one stroke at a time, one pedal at a time. So I'd given myself a certain timing, and I said the cutoff in Copenhagen is 15 hours, 45 minutes. I said, boss, beyond 15 hours, it's a little shameful. Just sub 15 hours.
Right.
So I had written in a notebook, like my swim should take 1.5 hours, my bike should take 7 hours, 15 minutes break or whatever, 7 hours, 15 minutes. And the run should take 5.5 hours. The Delhi marathon I'd done in 4 hours, 45 minutes. But here I was like, okay, I'd never...
After the bike and all.
The max I had done, the longest session I had done was about 7 hours. And I had done about 160 bike and maybe a 10K run. That's the max brick workout I had done.
Right.
That's it. And hardly any open water training. Literally, I'd gone to a lake once. Because going to a lake is half your Sunday. I wake up at 5, drive some 2 hours away, go swim for 1 hour, come back for 2 hours. Like, it's a half-day affair. And with I have very young kids, 8 and 3.
Right.
I didn't have the luxury of time to do that. So literally 1 or 2 open water swims, that's it. I think just one.
Right.
And swim was okay. It was tiring. I think the last 3.2 to 4 was like, when is this getting over? I'm just so done, ready to be out of the water. But somehow pulled through. And 1 hour 30 was my goal. I finished in 1 hour 34 minutes. Then I had to change, took my leisure. I was so again, relieved, and everything is so wet. Your hands are trembling with whatever. It took up almost 13 minutes to change. Did the bike. The bike was really... interesting. I think for me, the bike was the most momentous, it was the most revealing part of the whole thing for me. Because again, they said flat course and all that, but there were hills. There were hills. There was uphill, but overall it was a beautiful scenic thing. And I was like, and you have to, I had to finish it. I told myself in about 24.5 or sub 25 kilometers an hour. I mean, beyond 25 kilometers an hour, because that's how it was for the cutoff. I had to do it within above 24 kilometers an hour for the cutoff. And see, 24 doesn't sound very high, but for me, all my practice sessions, I've done it at 22 and a half.
Right.
So I was like, okay, on that day, magically, I'm supposed to do 24 and a half. So I kept telling my coach, I was like, dude, what if I don't do it? And Ankush Sharma.
Yeah.
So emergency called him and I was like, listen, do some magic. Give me some advice. Come cycle with me once or twice. Just tell me something, tell me what to do. And he made me get on my aeros. He made my aero bars lower than what they were. And now he taught me one or two like tricks to do. So I used every trick I could. And I was doing pretty well. I was going at around 25 kilometers an hour. And then I had to take a loo break. I took a loo break, and that 3-4 minutes that you take, or that 5 minutes that you take, sets you back. It was actually set me back an entire kilometer. So I was back to 24. So I'm like, shit, I won't make the cutoff. And I was just not able to eat my gels. I was just feeling very pukish.
Right.
So I didn't eat any gels. Almost the entire Ironman journey, I must have had like 3-4 gels.
Wow.
Whereas you're supposed to have like 16 or 16 or whatever of them. I was eating like, I'd had a lot of dates with salt in them. A friend of mine had given it. What else did I eat? Just like water with my electrolytes. That's about it. And then I was doing okay. And then again, I started cramping. And then I was eating salt caps. I was still cramping. And I was like, not today. Not today. Like, just don't cramp. Because once you cramp and in the VMOs, you're done.
Right.
You're toast. And I didn't have the luxury of time to cramp and chill, release it. I was like, I'm running against time here. So somehow I just told myself, one pedal at a time, and I kept telling myself, you're going to be an Ironman today. Today is your day, self-talking yourself.
Yeah.
And finally, I was again one of the last to finish the bike. But I finished it with 25 minutes to spare.
Right.
And then it was the run. Now, the run was a different challenge because it's 4 loops. And every loop, you get a different color band. So people know that you finished one loop. As it is, you're the last. So every time you're passing somebody, you're seeing how many loops they have on their hand. And at least, I had company. In the first 3 loops, I had company. It was 10K into 4 times, or 10 point something. And it was... And I had not, so this time when I did the run after the Delhi marathon of 42, I told you 2 months my body was healing.
Right.
I didn't train more than 20 kilometers. I should have done a 30 or a 34 kilometer run. I stopped at 20. I had not done more than 20. So the first 20 kilometers was great. I did it in my typical pace, sub 7 pace, and I was super happy. But I had not trained for the last 20K.
Yeah.
And that too after 180 kilometer bike when I was just cramping and everything. So the last 20K was a bit of a struggle.
Right.
And that's when like all this negative thoughts start coming in. You're not going to like, I don't have enough gas in my tank.
Yeah.
How are you going to do it? This is like my knees were paining, everything's pounding on concrete.
Yeah.
My sister was there. My husband was there. We had a few friends cheering us on. And I think that really helped. I think the cheering, the crowd is phenomenal there. Right. So the crowd was really good. And I think that spurred me another 10.
Yeah.
But the last 10, like most of people are done. And you can hear, you cross the Ironman. So if you go if you go right, then you're going to the finishers. But if you go left, you have one more loop.
Right.
So you're hearing the guy go, you're an Ironman. And you're hearing everybody finishing.
Right.
And you have to go for
one more loop.
Or 2 more. Like for me, I was hearing it from the first loop.
Right.
So first loop you hear it, second loop you hear it, third loop, by the 4th loop you're like, dude, are there going to be any people left when I finish? So the last loop was the real test, I would say. Because there were hardly any people. And I started at 7:30 in the morning, finished at 10 o'clock or 10:15 at night. And it was dark. Copenhagen, I guess most finishers finish before it was getting dark by 9:30.
Right.
So my last loop, there was no street lights. It was pitch black.
Wow.
I actually couldn't see where I was going. And in fact, the only way I could see was other people running, some silhouettes of other people running. So I was like, there's no way I can do this alone. So I started talking to other people, people in my same condition as me. Made friends, I started talking to an older gentleman. He was about late 50s so we just started talking each other's story because you're like, there's nothing else to do. Like the crowds have dissipated. It's pitch black. You can't see anything. The crowd, the athletes have thinned out. And so I started talking to this guy. We were sharing our journeys and time went by. And towards the end, it was such a beautiful moment because we were and I was stopping at every station. He was like, okay, Nirupa, let's not stop at the last 2 stations. Let's just go for it. The last 2K, let's just go for it. So he encouraged me to go fast. And the last 2K was super fast again, sub 7 again. And then he was like, do you want to go first or should I go first when we reached the red carpet?
Right.
And I said, age before beauty. You go first.
Yeah.
So he went, had his moment.
Right.
And then I followed, had my moment. And it was... the most.
Amazing,
I didn't do it before I was 40, but I did it before in my 40th year.
Yeah.
So it was that gift that I managed to keep that promise to myself.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
It's not how fast you finish or whatever, but the goal of finishing and crossing that finish line itself, right? Yeah, that's such a gives you such a high, right? And that too, in your case, it's like for most of amateur athletes, right? It is that you have these you have your full-time work, you are you are a mom of 2, you at work also there is a lot of travel involved. It's not like a 5 to 9 job or anything like that. So with all these, to set yourself goals like this and ticking them off is really a big thing. So how do you kind of manage this, the prioritization? How does it come into the picture?
So honestly, truth be told, I didn't put in the required training. Like I should have done a lot more, but it was really not. I mean, it was very, very tough. Like you said, my kids are still young. See, some people have older kids.
Right.
They manage after it's 8, 9 years old. They're all fine. But mine was 3 and 7 at that point in time. And both went to different schools. So most people, I think they were able to wake up early and finish their workout and then go to work.
Right.
For me, what happened was I would wake up at 6:15. The first child, and see, I'm at work the whole day, literally like 9:30, leave the house. I don't return till about 7 o'clock.
Right.
So the only time I see my kids is in the morning and then in the evening. So for me, the morning routine and the night routine is super important. So I would wake up at 6:15, give the first child, get her ready for school, give her a bath, talk to her, and she would go by 7. And normally I would then be able to go do my workout. 7 to 8, 8:30 was also okay. But then the next child would wake up and she'd have to go to school by about 8:15. And then by the time you drop her to school, come back, it's 8:30, and then it's too late to get in a full workout. So I would just squeeze in like a half an hour, 45 minutes workout during the day and then go to work. You have to reach work at least by like 9:30 to 10 sometimes. So if I squeezed in a workout, I'd reach only by 10.
Right.
So squeeze in a half an hour, 45-minute workout. And I would tell my coach, can you just give me a 45-minute workout? If you tell me 1 hour, I won't be able to do it because, you have to warm up 10 minutes. Then you have to do a 40-minute workout. It's almost 50 minutes. Whereas if you get a 1 hour workout, it's almost 1 hour, 15 minutes. I was like, I can't do it. So just give me a short 40-minute workout. So literally, I did only 40 minutes on the weekdays, 40 minutes to an hour on the weekdays. And weekends, so 1 hour, 1 hour, so 5 hours. Then weekends, I would do 2 to 3 hours. So 5 plus 3, 8. And Sundays, again, I would do 2 to 3 hours. And I slowly scaled that up to about 6 to 8 hours. So at a minimum, like for those 12 weeks, I was doing about 8 to 10 hours usually. The last 1 month, I scaled it up to about 14 hours. So actually, this is, I think, the bare minimum one can do.
Right.
And if you ask me, I would not want to do a full, like it was very stressful. Like if you don't do your workout, you feel crappy about yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're doing a short workout. Then if you miss that workout for whatever reason, okay, your child is sick, or you have to get into work early, or you have to stay at work late, or I have to travel to wherever I need to travel for work. You miss a workout, you're really shortchanging yourself. And my body took it, like, I don't think it was easy on my body to do that full Ironman, especially like, I feel like I'm still recovering. It's been 2 months and I feel like I still have a few niggles here and there. I'm not in great pain or anything, but I have few niggles, like it's still healing. So if it were up to me, I would wait till at least both my kids go to the same school, which for me is another 3 years away. and then do the full Ironman. And then I feel I can do justice to the training because it requires a certain rigor.
Right.
It requires you to do 90 minutes a day. So whether it's 7 to 8:30 or 5:30 to 7 or whatever it is, it requires 90 minutes at least on weekdays, and it requires 3 to 4 hours on Saturday, and it requires 4 to 8 hours on Sunday. That's what it requires.
Correct.
But I was not able to give it all that. And that is why, I mean, it showed in my timing, but it's okay. Like I did what I could. I did it to the best I could. I'm really proud.
Yeah.
Because it was crazy. And work, I cannot drop the ball.
Right.
I cannot drop the ball at work. My work is my temple for me. So
of course, yeah. So, what are the learnings that before I ask this question, I have to say, it is not about the timings when you are. It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like the how crappy you felt after your Croatia stuff, and then that perspective shift is what kind of ensured that your holidays are not, the mood of your holidays are not determined by the timings or whatever, right? So that is important, right? We have to live life, to the best of our abilities, right? So well done on that. So what are the learnings that you from sport that you take to work, and that how they help?
I think what I really like about sport is the rigor of it. The discipline it forces you to have. Like everything, like if you don't put in the work, it shows.
Right.
Like there are days, I'm just saying, you go out and you go partying one night. Next day you try to run, it's going to show.
Right.
You go eat some nice pav bhaji or some masala fry event the night, the day before, and you try to work out the next day, it's going to show.
Right.
I think I love the rigor of that. Like I think performance is almost commensurate with the hard work put in. I like that aspect. So I think it forces you to work hard. It forces you to work towards a goal. It forces you to be mentally tough, like accept failure, accept that progress is not linear. Every year we all have annual goals, no? 20% increase from last year.
Yeah.
It's not going to work like that. Life doesn't work like that. It might work like that for some time, but progress is not linear. You'll have the highs, you'll have the lows.
Right.
And it's taught me to take things in my stride. I'm able to take the highs and the lows with equal measure.
Right.
Because I know whatever goes up also has to come down at some point. So life and sport humbles you.
Right.
I was just telling you, I was in Sri Lanka for the last 1 week and we tried surfing. And I was like, it's a really fun but humbling experience. The waves, baby waves will just throw you and toss you around into the ocean.
Right.
It's a humbling experience. And I think sport is humbling. Whatever you practice on that day, how does your body react? And it's not like an exam you can cram for last minute. It's what have you done in the last 3 to 6 to 1 year?
Right.
Yeah. So it's so much to learn. Patience, right? Results don't show immediately. So resilience of the mind, put in the work patiently, trust the process. Like I can go on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, trusting the process, I think, is the most important aspect. Like there's a process, there's a method. And I keep saying anybody can be an Ironman. From today, if you're a couch potato to Ironman, not more than 2 years, I would say. Anybody can go do an Ironman. Just trust the process, follow a plan, you'll do it.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. Yeah.
So you see the similarities between business and sport, right? And like you said, the resilience and all that, right, come into the picture. So do you see the other way around as well? The work feeding your attitude at sport. How does that, or is it only one way?
No, I'm sure work, I don't know. I think sport gives back so much more. Like work is work is great.
Right.
But work also humbles you. Work also teaches you to be patient. Work also, there's a method to the madness. It's similar, But I think the learnings are so much quicker in sport.
Right.
I don't know. It's so easy to see, like in work, I feel like you have a team behind you. One good person can negate the performance of maybe another person. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's more a team sport, I would say. Work is a team sport. Ironman is a very individual thing.
Yeah.
And like any team sport, while you are as strong as your weakest link, it will show. But somehow, like, of course, work teaches you. Like I said, work also, the learnings are similar.
Correct.
I mean, that is just life also teaching you, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily just work. It's just life. Life teaches you all these things.
Correct.
Ups, downs, being patient, riding the wave. I've had to ride the wave. Like you go through a negative period, you ride the wave and you know that, okay, just ride it out. It's a bad time. Ride it out. There'll be a good time.
Right.
Be patient. Life teaches you that. Work, I think whatever life teaches you, you have to apply to work. Right. Of course, I'm sure there are a lot of learnings, but for me, I gained so much from sport that I'm able to see what it gives me. Right. And I'm better at work because of my sport.
Yeah. And also, do you think the sport also feeds into the family life and kind of it teaches you lessons there? I remember you telling in the Croatia swim while you wanted to give up, you remember that your daughter was waiting, right? And it kind of it's a beautiful moment that I can't give up. I have someone.
She's waiting there watching me. Right. She'll think I don't want her to think I drowned or something if I don't come out.
Right. No, that's it's beautiful, right? The way sport teaches and kind of in all aspects of life, right? Yeah. It's humbling. It's also elating at times, and it teaches us so much. So now, with all, what next for you in all this?
What next? So now I think I've done the distance. I've gone the distance. I don't think I'm interested in doing any longer, some ultra, plan or something.
Yeah.
I think now my focus is to get faster. Like I've done the distance. I did what I set out to do. Right. I reached what I set out to reach. Now for me, I think I'd like to focus more on performance, on technique, and just getting faster and getting better. So I want to do smaller events. Like I said, I don't think I'll do another Ironman till both my kids go to school at the same time. Yeah. And I can devote at least 90 minutes a day on a weekday to it. Otherwise, I'm not doing myself any good, and I'm not doing justice to what the training requires. So I said, maybe do a few half Ironmans in the middle, like next 2-3 years, do half Ironmans and get faster there. And I'm sure that'll help translate to my full Ironman distance when I do it the next time.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. That's the long plan, is to do half Ironmans for the next 3 years. I do only one event a year because, like I said, I have work commitments and it detracts a little bit.
Yeah.
So I can give only one event where I'm focused on that thing. So I do one event a year. I'll do half Ironmans the next 3 years. And then hopefully another full, and hopefully by then I'll be much faster and better. But as a lead up to something, and I like to keep smaller goals, smaller fitness goals. I think I'm just that person. I need small goals to keep myself motivated, something to work towards. Right. And like I said, that also translates to work. Like I need goals at work to like perform, achieve, So I think we'll do Mumbai Marathon. That's the next in line, but I haven't started training yet. And we're already in November.
Yeah.
And it's in mid-Jan, I think. So I have 2.5 months.
Yeah. I'm sure you will do well there. But it's been a fantastic conversation, Nirupa. Thanks. Before we wind up, what are some of the tips that you would give, working athletes to do well at work, sport, and life in general?
I think anybody who's a working athlete already knows what they want to do. I think what's helped me is I had to change my lifestyle a bit. Early to bed, early to rise. That's the key thing. Like I said, I think the nutritional bit about breaking up with SAMM, that is beautiful. That is important. Because, and then I would also say, while you're working and while you're doing your sport, I think it's, a lot of people tend to forget the world around them. They're so focused on themselves and this is my race and my event. They tend to forget the entire support network around them. You know, you need still time with your kids, you need still time with your husband, you need still time with your parents, your friends. And I would say don't forget those relationships. I think I'm also trying to work and be better at that, because just trying to manage a young family, work, and a sport, sometimes I just don't have time to go out. I don't have time to hang out with friends. And at some point later in life, nobody cares
Yeah.
how many Ironmans you did. Nobody gives a damn except you. So I think those relationships, keeping that alive is equally important. Like I know a lot of athletes just forget. They don't have the time to give to other people. And I think that's one thing I'm trying to get better at, giving more time to other people. I think that's my takeaway.
Man, amazing. Thanks, Nirupa. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for taking the time and spending, sharing your experience with the working athlete.
Thank you for having me. It's been a fun conversation.
Thank you. That was my conversation with Nirupa. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are enjoying these podcasts and are finding them useful, please consider supporting the podcast by subscribing to it on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps. Also, supporting the sponsors of the podcast is a great way to support the podcast itself. Thanks again for your continuous support. See you next week with another guest.